June is the last month in my first ever giveaway bullet journal, which I set up for somebody else, and I'm feeling a little bit fruity. This is a super cute layout, but it's also really easy to execute. Hi, it's Erin, thank you for clicking on my video. I actually set this up way back in December last year because this journal went to a winner back in December and has been with them ever since. That could be part of why I decided to do such a summery theme, partly because it was summer for me at the time that I set it up, and I knew by this point who the winner was, and so I knew that it would be summer for them by the time June rolled around too. This is a really adorable bullet journal setup. It's quite functional still as well, and it's also, in my opinion, really easy to set up because we're really just using these rather large fruit stickers and teaming them up with some solid colored kind of medium width washi tapes, and that's how we're making this whole theme come together. Of course, also with some pens that kind of match the color scheme too. We're starting out on the right page of this first spread here. I'm going to make a Dutch door just because it's so much fun and I thought it would look really cute to follow the shape of the edges of these stickers if I lined them all up next to each other. So I'm making a vertical stack of lemons and apples, and I'm just cutting around the edges, following the shape somewhat with my scissors. I'm going to jump back in and tidy this up in a minute, but I just wanted to get the bulk of this paper away first to make it a little bit easier to fussy cut around some of these edges. I'm not going to get that technical, but just wanted the shape to follow the shape of the leaves and the apples and the lemons. These stickers are from Journal Say. I'll have a link to them in the description as well as links to everything else that I'm using, and they also come in some other fruit varieties as well, like strawberries and stuff. I just picked these ones because I liked them the most. If you haven't come across the giveaway journal on my channel before, and this is your first time watching one of the videos about it, I thought I'd tell you a bit about how it all works. Basically, I set up a whole journal ahead of time for a mystery person, so I do a full 6 months worth of themes plus the initial spreads at the start of the journal with trackers and things, and then I give it away to one lucky winner. And if they want to, they can use it as their very own bullet journal for the next 6 months, or they can ignore it if they want. Really, they can do whatever they want with it. That means even though the word giveaway is in the title of this video, I think I need to come up with a different name for this journal because that's been confusing people, so let me know if you have suggestions. You cannot win the journal that I am showing you right now. It has already been won and it has been with the winner since December. Because I typically fit 6 months into a single journal, that means the second giveaway journal will soon be up for grabs. It will cover from July through to December of 2024. The giveaway is not open yet, you can't enter yet, but keep an eye on my channel and I will post about it when it is. I've mentioned this before, this is one of my absolute favorite ways to make a theme. You just pick a sticker that you really like, or a PET tape maybe, and then pick out 2 of the colors from it and use some solid washi tapes in those colors. Layer those 2 washi tapes down sort of slightly on top of each other and then a sticker on top of that. Bam, you have a theme. And it's a fail-safe one, it always looks good. Because the colors in these stickers are quite bright and the stickers themselves are also pretty big, I wanted to make sure I was leaving lots of negative space, which means white space on the page that doesn't have anything on it, to make sure that there was a lot of room for everything to breathe in this layout. I have a video about how to make your bullet journal more beautiful, which I can link to in the description for you or up in the cards right now. And I also posted one recently showing the full in-depth process of how I plan my themes out, so if you'd like to see that come together, then you can check that out too. We've moved on to the second spread, part of which is revealed by the cutaway part of the Dutch door in the previous, so I want to be a bit careful about where I place things here. I had actually forgotten to factor in that Dutch door. You can see from the way the boxes were drawn out on the page in pencil that I hadn't factored it in, and so part of where I was going to put the layout was cut off. That was very smart of me. I also messed up some of my lines, but really I'm trying to avoid black in any kind of bold way for this setup. Thankfully, I have this handy white paint marker that I can use to get rid of lines that aren't supposed to be there. Really recommend that for fixing mistakes. This calendar is Monday starting, so the first column is all the Mondays of the month of June, and I've made this one so that the boxes for each calendar day are 4 spaces tall by 4 spaces wide, and I've left 1 more space in between each so that I could add a place to put the number and use some markers that I thought were a good color match to go with the stickers as well. These are all Tombow dual tip brush pens, which are some of my absolute favorites for bullet journaling because they are the perfect width of the nib to make a line go perfectly between the 5mm dot grid spaces like this. It's so satisfying. I'm doing all of my heading lettering with this grey Pentel brush sign pen, which is one of my absolute favorite pens of all time. I use it constantly. And I am using a black Pigma Micron for all of my fine liner needs here. This is the 05. I think it's okay when it's something as small as just the numbers for each day of the week. I think that's fine. We can get away with it. I'm going to line the page underneath the Dutch door, which is the right side of the calendar page here, with some stripes of the washi tape, and that's just going to give us a really nice contrast, a really nice background for that Dutch door so that when we're open on the cover spread, it's got a lot of impact, you know? It's very punchy. Wide washi tapes are actually really good for this. I don't have any that kind of fit this theme, so I'm just layering up some thinner washi tapes and that's just fine, but use what you have and see what kind of cool stuff you can come up with. We don't have any fruit stickers on the calendar spread yet, so we're going to jump in next and add those in. Again, because they're quite big, I need to be a bit careful about how I place these. I don't really want to cut any of them down. I like them the way that they are kind of printed like this, so I'm also trying to avoid having any of them visible when the Dutch door page is closed on top of this. So there's a lot to kind of consider here. It's a little bit of trial and error, but if you slide things around, I don't mind if it covers little bits of the calendar layout either. I think that's totally fine. As long as there's still enough space there to write anything you would have on that calendar day, then I don't mind that at all. You just got to be a bit careful about factoring in both pages when you're doing a Dutch door like this. I know I just mentioned I don't really want to cut any of the stickers down. I actually feel a little bit better about cutting the stickers down if they are the floral versions that came with these, so I don't mind chopping off a bit of that, you know, but if I can avoid it for the fruit stickers, then I absolutely will. Probably also worth mentioning, when I got these stickers, I actually opted for 2 packs of the lemons and 2 packs of the apples, and I ended up using pretty much almost all of them for this setup. So if you plan to do a full theme, if you can work out how many stickers you get in a set before you jump in and do like a multi-page bullet journal theme like this, sometimes it's worth getting 2 sets. Just some forward planning may be necessary. Just thought I'd mention that. I love how this Dutch door came together. So let's move on to the next page, which is for tracking habits. It's also for tracking sleeping habits as well as regular habits, and it's also for tracking your mood. So I guess this is an all-over tracking dashboard kind of a spread. For the giveaway journal, because this is not for my own personal use, I've been making sure to include the same trackers and the same number of things to track. So for instance, if there are 6 spaces to track habits on the habit tracker in this one, there are also 6 spaces in the February setup and the March setup and the April setup, you know, just so that I'm not taking something away from somebody once they've started using it and are thinking, oh, I actually really like this. And then I'm like, no, you can't have it anymore because I didn't put it in May or whatever. But even though it's functionally serving the same purpose, I'm trying to make sure that they look quite different every time so that you have some inspiration for different ways that you can maybe adapt trackers to suit your own needs. It's always good to have options for different ways that you can lay things out, and for the person who does eventually win the journal, then they can try out different styles of tracking and work out which ones are the best fit for them. And hopefully then, if they're setting up their own journal in the future after this, they know what's going to be the best fit and they can use that as a jumping off point and go from there. This particular habit tracker is one that I always really enjoy setting up, especially for months like June that have 30 days because it fits really nicely when you're splitting out the month over 2 rows like this. It's a very space efficient habit tracker. It will fit very comfortably on an A5 page because that's what I'm using here. And I leave a space along the top for the initial for each day of the week so that the top row corresponds to the top Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and the bottom row corresponds to the one that's at the bottom of the tracker. I always find if I'm trying to go by the date, if I'm like, what did I do on the 3rd? Did I do the habit on the 3rd? I can't remember. But if I'm thinking, did I do the habit on Monday? It's a bit easier to work out. So that's why I like to include that. The graph framework that we're setting up on the right side right now is for a sleep tracker. So if you imagine that the vertical small column is for each of the days of the month from the 1st through to the 30th, and the horizontal is for hours of sleep, whether that's from a time to a time, or if that's just a cumulative number of hours slept, that's how that tracker works. I'm also trying to make sure as I'm setting these up that I'm distributing the green and the yellow kind of somewhat evenly across the page. I want them represented on every page, so I'm trying to make sure with my markers that they show up every time. Something else I'm trying to do every time to make sure that the theme is theming is to include the washi tape and the fruit stickers, especially the fruit stickers. I'm really favoring those ones over the florals, but I'll use the florals kind of as padding where I need to, just to make the theme stretch that little bit further because I only had so many lemons and so many apples to work with. Sometimes there's just not going to be enough space to put a lemon or an apple sticker, but there will be enough space to layer some washi tape, so that's kind of my fail-safe system. If in doubt, just put some washi tape there. And we're going on to the mood tracker now, and this is one of my favorite mood tracker layouts. I haven't done this in ages, and I don't know why, because I love it. It works really well when you have a colorful layout because it gives you another chance to get those colors on the page in a way that is a little bit random and fun and playful. Basically, each blob is going to represent a different day in the month, so I need to make sure that I have 30 blobs somewhat evenly spaced in the space between this habit tracker in the top left corner and the sleep tracker along the right side of the right page, which is a little tricky. I did get in there with a pencil and try and work out where my blobs might be, but I'm also trying to vary the size and the shape of them a little bit each time so that they keep looking random and not like exactly perfectly spaced, exactly perfectly shaped blobs, which is wonderful for me because anything that's supposed to look intentionally a bit random leaves a lot of room for human error without ruining it. So I love that. The way the mood tracker is going to work is that each day the giveaway journal winner will put a little doodle that corresponds to their mood, assigned by a key that I'm kind of sketching out now. I needed a reference for these little doodles because I can't do this kind of thing just straight out of my imagination, but they're very easy. Hopefully they're not too intimidating. There's a lemon slice as the really happy mood. There's a little sprig of plant, I guess, that is the somewhat happy mood. We've got a whole lemon as the kind of neutral, not happy, not sad, maybe a little bit meh kind of a mood. And then at the bottom, there's an apple, and that is the saddest or angriest or most depressed of the moods. I've tried to make them pretty simple little doodles so that they aren't too intimidating to try and copy if you wanted to try this setup for yourself. But at the same time, if they are a bit wonky looking when you draw them out, that's totally fine when you have this many on the page. So for instance, say you were feeling meh on the first, you would draw a lemon in the blob that corresponds to the first. It's got a little number next to it. On the second, say you had a really good day, then you can draw a lemon slice in that space, or a lime slice if you prefer some other kind of citrus. It could be a grapefruit, whatever you like. And you'll continue that all the way across the mood tracker for the entirety of the month. The next one we're going to set up is just a single page. I've been calling this the monthly snapshot for the giveaway journal. My goals, favorites, and musings in my own journal. It's just a page that's like a little monthly check-in to see what you're into, what you're aiming for, kind of what's on your mind. It's like a little self-check-in snapshot of who you are right now in this month, in this moment in time. I'm setting mine up with 3 horizontally oriented boxes that are stacked vertically on top of each other. I'm going to letter the heading in the top right corner for each one of these, just kind of nice and small, so there's still lots of room for adding in the information. You might notice I'm spelling favorites the US way here. That's because I knew that this journal was going to the US by this point, so I stopped using the U in favorites, but when I'm not sure, I will default to the European and Australian spelling, because that's just how we spell it here. If you find having the dot grid dimensions useful, I thought I would mention that each of these boxes are 10 spaces tall. I've left 2 spaces blank at the top and bottom of the page, and also 2 spaces blank in between each one, and just left some space blank on the left side too so that I could add some decoration. On the right side now, we're moving on to the spending tracker page, and this is one that I have recently removed from my own journal, but don't worry, you will continue to see some kind of spending log going into the giveaway journal going forward. I also still do one, I just don't do it in my bullet journal anymore. I have a dedicated journal for that now. If you have a look at the graph that's on the left side, it's divided into 3 columns. The big one is for items, so you just write down whatever it was that you bought. The second one is for category, so you can categorize things into a way that makes sense to you. And the last one is for cost, which is just how much you spent on the thing. The little right side table is actually exactly the same, and then at the bottom it's just category and total, so you can add things up by how much you spent across a certain category. And there's actually an overall kind of financial log thing way back at the beginning of this journal that this ties into, so you can check those categories against the sort of spending limits that you budget for yourself and see whether or not you're staying on track with your spending, or if you're over or underspending in certain things. And if you're underspending, then maybe you can be sending some of that money to savings, and financial literacy is really important to me, so I like having this page in the giveaway journal because it might help someone. Something else that I find really helps with finances is having a meal planner, because if you know what you're going to eat and you have an idea of when you're going to eat it, then you can kind of budget your groceries to go over a longer period of time or just more economically. So that's always something good to consider in the world that we live in, unfortunately. Having said that, this is kind of just a fancy way to do a calendar layout, and I have even used this exact layout for my content planner in the past, so it could be flexible if you were to be a giveaway journal winner and came across this page or wanted to adapt it for another purpose in your journal. It could really be so many things. The columns that I'm adding color to here are just going to be for the initial for each day of the week and the number of that day. So that first tiny little column there will be Saturday the 1st and Sunday the 2nd, and then the second one will have Monday the 3rd, and so on and so forth all the way across. I've deliberately made sure that the vertical space of each of the individual days is 4 spaces tall because I wanted to allow enough space for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. If you wanted to really plan all of your meals out very meticulously, then you have space to do that. If you want to wing it a little bit or factor in takeaway or dining out with friends and that kind of thing, then you don't have to plan every meal, but if you plan kind of the majority of them, then you're going to save money and you're going to probably eat healthier too. So helpful things. There's kind of a balance to strike between meal planning without getting too obsessive and maybe getting a little bit like uncomfortably careful about food. So it's hard to strike that balance, but I do find that this helps me as somebody who quite often just forgets to eat or is too lazy to prepare food for herself. So that's a thing. I've also left a bit of space at the top of the calendar here so that I could put some strips of washi tape and some stickers to make sure that this whole theme is continuing to theme all the way through. Also, there's just extra space on the right side because of how I set this up. I probably would ordinarily center this a bit more, but when you have big stickers, you kind of got to work around the size of them. So you can still end up with a balanced layout even when your functional part is kind of weighted towards the bottom left, or to any direction for that matter. So this is just a good example of how you can use your stickers to offset that visual weight. Since this journal is not for me, I'm always trying to make sure that I bake in some flexibility. So that means including some decorated but otherwise blank pages or spreads so that the winner can add anything that they might need that I haven't already included, which is what this page is for. This is the one that I just call the spare, but it's going to be a little bit of a pretty page with lots of white space so that the winner can add anything that they would like to include that I have not already. Or if there isn't anything else that they want to include, then they can use the extra stickers and washi tape and stuff that I've sent along with the journal to just make it a junk journal page, really decorate and have a good time and have a little bit of an art therapy moment, or they can add a quote or anything at all that they like. We're moving into weeklies now, and I'm trying to make sure that I make every weekly page a little bit different so that it's a fun and exciting and different and changing experience, both for the person who's using the journal and for you as a viewer to get some more ideas for your weekly spreads, and for me to maybe try out some layouts that I haven't used myself before and think, hey, this is a cool one. There's one coming up soon that I'm like, I gotta try this. We're starting out, however, with a fairly standard basic one. This one is an 8-box weekly, which means that we'll have a box for each day of the week. I always like to start on Mondays just because that's what's most comfortable to me, but if you wanted to make it a Sunday starter, you could do that too. And then the last box will just be for notes because I don't want to add kind of an uncomfortable extra day. I have been doing that in my own journal lately, but for these ones, I like to keep a week solidly together. Even when that means that maybe some of the days in that week don't fall within the correct month for the theme that it's within. So we're actually starting here on the Monday with the 3rd because the first 2 days of the month fall into, the majority of the week falls into the previous month of May. So that's where you'll find those in the weeklies. I've also deliberately made each of the individual daily boxes a little bit more narrow than I potentially could have because I wanted to leave some space on the left and right sides of the page to add some decoration, and I think it's come out very fresh and clean. Our next one reminds me of like a SWOT analysis, if you've ever done one of those where it's like the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, except in this case it's just going to be days of the week in each of these quadrants instead of like business analysis tools. I'm always in two minds about what would be the correct direction, and there is no correct direction for this, which is why I'm always questioning it, but which way things should go. The most natural way for me is to do it the way I'm setting this one up here, which is if I'm starting from Monday in the second box here, then Tuesday, Wednesday stay on the top row, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday go along the bottom row, and that just seems to be how my brain works the best. But I know for some people it would work better to have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday all on that first page, in kind of the way that you read a book, and then have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the right page. Neither is correct or incorrect, but I am very curious which one feels more natural to you. These are things I have to consider when I'm going to be continuing to make journals for people who aren't me without knowing who the winner is going to be at the time that I'm setting them up. So please do let me know how you feel about that. Also, this time we're putting decoration instead of a notes space. I just thought this would be a good way to get some of the pretty onto the pages to take up this whole top left corner with some pretty. And I'm going to kind of squeeze some extra stickers into the line spaces around as well, just to make sure that the theme is continuing throughout this spread while also leaving heaps of room for planning. This one is my favorite of the weeklies for this video, and this is the one that I was saying earlier, I really have to try this out because I think it's going to be so cool. I wanted to have space for planning for each day of the week without it being kind of too overwhelming. Maybe this is good for someone who only has a few things to keep track of each day, maybe not a huge to-do list, or maybe you also do dailies. It still has some space for decoration, it still looks really organized, it's just kind of ticking all the boxes for me here. To wrap your head around this one, you want to imagine it like each of your pages is divided into 2 columns, and Monday is the only day in the column on the left one, and then we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the column for the second one there on the left page. Friday and Saturday go into the 3rd column that's on the left side of the right page, and then Sunday and notes are the 2 that are left over on the far right side of the right page. So it kind of goes like this, see, follow the finger, there we go. And then I feel like it's pretty clear where you can play around with decoration. So underneath the notes section, you can take up some space there. Underneath the Monday and above the Monday, and also just above the Friday are all really good opportunities to get some pretty down on the page without eating into any of your planning space. And this last one here for this last weekly we're going to set up together. This is another variation on kind of the SWOT analysis setup, but also kind of the 8 boxes setup. I just ran out of that washi tape, so I'm gonna have to glue that last part on because some of the paper came up off the roll with it. It's not a big deal. As long as it's on the page, I'm happy. So rather than having space on the left and right sides to decorate, or rather than leaving the top left corner empty to decorate or anything like that, I'm dividing the page down the middle and I'm adding a column of decoration vertically through the center of each page. And then we're going to have the weekly space on either side of that, and that's going to be divided in half vertically as well. So you'll have 4 spaces for planning on the left page and 4 spaces on the right page too. I've learned through trial and error setting this one up when you're working with big PET stickers like this. Sometimes it's good to have all of your functional planning down on the page first, because then you can really work out where it's okay to cover things with stickers and where you really need the space. So I'm not doing the lettering yet, but I thought I would get down the marker spaces that will denote where the names for each day of the week go, so that I know I'm leaving myself enough room around the stickers to have the headings for like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in those spaces. I hope that made sense. See how to the right of the lemons, the leaf sticker is kind of sitting over the top of some of that space there where the name will go? That just means I know exactly how much room I actually have to letter Wednesday when I get to that spot. And I find that really helps. I can barely even believe it, but that's actually the first 6 months of giveaway journal. That's this entire journal all set up and ready to go for lovely Randy who won the journal. Let's have a quick flip through of this whole setup, and I did actually film a flip through of the entire giveaway journal. If you want to see that, let me know. I wasn't sure if it would still be useful because it's not filled in. Obviously I filmed it before I mailed it away, and I'm not going to ask our winners to send me like a filled in flip through because that would be weird. But please do let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see the flip through of this entire journal. I also added some extra stuff to it that you haven't seen on the channel previously, so yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. I will be opening up the second giveaway journal competition very soon, so if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do make sure that you do subscribe if that's something you're interested in entering. There were a few pages left at the end of this one that I ended up using for something else, and then left a few more blank as well for our winner. Look how chunky the journal got! She looks so nice. This one's from Scribbles That Matter, and I wholeheartedly recommend it. It was a joy to use. On the top right side of the screen right now, there is a link to a video where I show you my entire process to plan a theme in case you'd like to see how that works, and underneath that is a playlist of all of the giveaway journal setups so far in case you want to get caught up on this cute little journal.